So, buenos días, señores y señoras. That's about as far as my Spanish goes because, you know, I am all about German teamwork, I have to say. I arrived in Panama 5 minutes before the final game, and I was, for the first time, I was the attraction at an immigration office. They said, oh my God, she's from Albania. But here is also big congratulations to all of these phenomenal Latin American teams. Really, really well done. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I really would like to talk about sustainability and how to achieve sustainable growth and how we really need to put it at the core of everything that we do, whether we're a government or whether we're a corporation or whether we're an individual. Our CEO, Meg Whitman, she attended a conference last year, Carbon Disclosure Project, and she said at that time, business as usual is not an option. If you take a look at the demographic trends, for example, in 1800, we had 1 billion people on the planet. In 1960, there were 3. Now we're over 7, and soon there will be 9 billion people on the planet. And even today, out of the 7 billion, a third of them are children. And 85% of those that are 25 and younger live in the so-called emerging markets. They want to have access to a clean environment, to education, and to health. And that's really what we need to work on. At the same time, you take a look at what IT is doing. You know, yeah, it's invisible, but it's everywhere. We're producing as much information every 2 days now as we did in all of mankind until 2003, in 2 days. And it's only going to get bigger. And all of this information is sitting on the cloud. If the cloud were a country, it would be the 5th biggest country today in front of all of those other 191 countries. It is not sustainable. We're already using up, you know, resources of an equivalent of 1.5 Earth every year. So it takes the Earth 1.5 years to regenerate from all the resources that we extract and the waste that we produce. And the UN trajectory says over the next 20 years, that's going to go to 3 Earth. Well, we don't have 3 Earth. So we have to stop what we're doing today and really do things very, very differently. This idea about creating social value at the same time as you create value you know, for your company and produce shareholder wealth is called living progress at HP. And actually, it's something that is part of the DNA because our founders, Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard, created the company 75 years ago. And at that time, they said already the betterment of society cannot be left to a few. It's a responsibility that all of us share. And companies exist to produce a value for society as much as the value for shareholders. At that time, Dave Packard was laughed out of the room. He said so many times I talked to fellow CEOs and they were just simply laughing me out of the room. But for HP, it was a corporate objective since 1957. And what that means is that sustainability, which is much more than the environment, cannot sit on the side. You cannot look at it as, you know, this area that needs some investment. You have to make sure that you invest enough to create innovation in new processes that help you, you know, at the bottom line, and new ideas and new products and solutions that help you drive the top line. Then it becomes a very different discussion because you connect the economic and the sustainability piece. So when you take a look at the framework and how this works throughout the company, we said we could play in many different fields, but which areas are really the last frontiers of information technology where we can make the biggest difference? If you think about the finance market, you know, I travel a lot. I go to Ouagadougou and I put my ATM card in the machine and whoops, you know, here I get the money. I live in Germany, as I said. The other day, you know, my doctor was moving, and so I asked her to just transfer my files to the new doctor I had chosen, and she couldn't do it. She said, you know, I'm not digitally set up. It's 2014 and we're in Germany, and you know, I'm getting photocopies, which is good for our business, but you know, generally I would have assumed that at this stage you can transfer the data digitally. So we said, let's focus on human progress, healthcare, about better access and better delivery of health. And then take a look at education. We've talked with the president about it. The education in the primary school is that of the agricultural century, with a blackboard and the school books. And we don't allow the kids to use the technology that they've grown up with. They know how to use that stuff. We need to make sure they use technology to learn how to transform their lives, yet we don't even allow to bring it to the classroom. There's a revolution now ongoing in education, but it's really starting at the university level, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. And then, of course, I've talked already about the environment. Everybody thinks sustainability is the environment, and it's absolutely core. And there are a lot of things that an IT company can do here. You know, you can start with, recycling. We started to recycle punch cards in the 60s, and not everybody in this room will remember what punch cards are. So it's a long time back. But it's not just that, it's also about understanding your own footprint. We're the first company that has established a full ecological footprint. We understand how much we're producing ourselves in our own operations, how much is done in the supply chain, and how much in our products and solutions. And once you know that, you can also do something about it. In addition to that, we think this is all about what we do and how we then bring products to market that address some of these issues, and I'll give you an example in 1 minute. And it's also really how we go about running our business. And we've heard a lot about, supply chain earlier, and when we think about supply chain, we have a supply chain that's worth over $60 billion. We have a huge responsibility to ensure that there are standards of business conduct and the same ethical principles applied. So when we went to China to take a look at how our supply chain was working there, we realized that by being located at the ocean side, there was a huge issue because the workers had to come from Western China and come to a completely different area. They were totally disconnected from their families, from their friends, from their culture, from their language, from their food, from anything they love and treasure. So what we did is we put manufacturing right into the central western piece of China, Chongqing. And the workers could stay home and produce much, much better work. We're much happier, so we drove human progress, we brought economic progress to that region, and we also changed the way we then delivered the PCs by putting them through air freight, but putting them on the old Silk Railroad, which we rediscovered from Chongqing to Duisburg, and saving about, producing 1/30 of the emissions that we would have produced via air freight. So we want to look at this whole thing holistically. And as I said to you, a lot of it for us is in our products and solutions. That's by far over 60% of our footprint is in our products and solutions. So this is really where we can make the biggest difference if we want to help manage this footprint, especially, as I said before, the cloud is huge and it's only going to get bigger. So we've created a breakthrough technology which disrupts our own server technology. It's called HP Moonshot. And what we've done is we've used the chips that are applied in smartphones and put them into the servers. So instead of having one big server sitting there, you now have 45 of those little things sitting in one rack. And they basically share the cooling, the resources, the networking, the storage, everything. And the result is that they're 89% more energy efficient, 89. That they have like 80% less space, and they're 77% cheaper. That's disruptive to our business model, you can believe me, 77% cheaper. But it also means that when we looked at expanding our own data centers, HP will never ever have to build another data center. Never ever, not with this technology, and it's only the beginning. And we've ported HP.com onto this technology, which gets over 300 million clicks a day, and it runs on the equivalent of 12 light bulbs. That's disruptive, and that's what we all need to do and to keep thinking about how we change basically our practices and how technology can make a change. This is a project I'm really, really excited about to tell you about, and actually tomorrow my colleague Adriana and I will fly to Costa Rica to go into the rainforest to actually see this project in action. So what we wanted to do is not only look at recycling and what we can do with products and solutions, but also how can we make a difference to the field of environmental research, which is so important for all of us, but is, again, one of these last frontiers of IT. And we were looking for a great partner, and so we went out there to talk to many different agencies, and we found a great partner in Conservation International. What they do is they go around like 15 countries, 16 rainforests, so from Costa Rica and Panama all the way to Malaysia. And they put up camera traps and sensors to understand what's happening really in the field. And in the past now, they've been getting back millions of pictures and a lot of information through these sensors. But then what? You know, you have a lot of data, so what? How do you turn that into knowledge? So we said, this is a great topic, and this is such an important one. And why is it so important? Because no matter where I am, I'm in beautiful Panama today. I was in Washington last week. I'm normally in Munich. And every time I take a deep breath, and we should all take a deep breath, 40% of that oxygen gets produced in the rainforest. Think about it. 80% of the food originates from the rainforest. Every 1 in 4 medicines already comes directly from the rainforest. And there is a lot more medicine there to be had. There are a lot more cures out there to diseases that we haven't even discovered because we don't really know what's going on. And yet we're losing 4.6 million hectares each year to deforestation. We need to do something about it, and we need to better understand what's happening to the species and have the facts and figures in our hands to basically change the conversation. So we brought HP Vertica to the game. Vertica is part of Haven. It's a big data analytics platform. And so what took these researchers, and there were like teams of 25 to 30 people, they worked on this in the past for 6 months to come out with this knowledge, to turn data into knowledge. Now is done by a single person in the course of 1 day. It's changing the game when you apply technology as an enabler. And we now understand, as we look at these species, for example, those on the left-hand side, the ocelot and great curassow, that in Panama, these populations, for example, are stable, but they're decreasing in Costa Rica. We know on the right-hand side that those animals are decreasing in both countries, for example. I've just picked examples from here. We found out that 12% of the species we've been monitoring are significantly decreasing. And when you Google them today or go to Wikipedia, it says we don't know what's happening to them. But we now do. And now that we do, we can also do something about it. So what I'd like to do is, first of all, show you this wildlife picture index. And this is really what's changing the discussion after all. Our enterprise services business has created the system that now allows any of us, anybody that's interested in this type of topic, to participate and to get this type of data. So governments can talk to nonprofits, one nonprofit can talk to another nonprofit, companies can join the discussion, and everybody has access to this open system of information, this wildlife picture index of what's really happening in these forests. And the folks from Conservation International said to me, that's almost like the best thing, because it's completely changed how we talk and how we collaborate. And again, I come back to teamwork. This enables teamwork like you've never seen before. And there's a famous gentleman, and I want you to think about, as you hear this voice now, who that is, who also to say a little bit about this partnership. So if you could play that video, please.
Everything is connected in the world. Nature doesn't live in countries. Nature lives as a unity. If we want to preserve this world and we want to do it in a smart way, we need to be able to assess how we're doing and react quickly.
You and I go to the doctor and we get our vital signs checked. So our temperature, our blood pressure. Well, we need those sorts of vital signs for the planet. And that's what we're really trying to do at Conservation International with TEAM and with other programs. What we do is put camera traps, so it's kind of like candid camera. We put these traps all through the forest, and it allows us to find out what's there and what the animals are doing.
Really, in environmental sciences, we have not harnessed the power of big data. So we need a system that can seamlessly integrate this into information that is useful. That's where our partnership with HP became really important.
One of the challenges about big data is that it really does require an end-to-end solution. It takes hardware, it takes software, and it takes professional services. And it's our enterprise services organization that's bringing all those pieces together and offering the comprehensive solution.
This is amazing. You just collected the data and you're looking at the results hundreds of miles away in a website.
We're just in the early stages of a partnership, but this is something that HP cares tremendously about. This is something that really gets everybody at Hewlett-Packard pumped up to be working with Conservation International.
Now we're entering into an enlightened stage in environmental science, and it's time that we have the power of big data and the power of monitoring to help us actually make a better world.
It was the wrong task for you. I have a different video where we have Harrison Ford telling this story because he was so amazed with the type of work that we do, and maybe we can show that at another time. And you know, when we say all of these things are really good for the environment, they're also good for business. We did get a letter directly from the chairman of the board of Walmart, Rob Walton, wrote a letter to Meg Whitman to say, look, I've seen the work that you do, and I'm so pleased that we are one of your partners in everyday life because we share the same purpose and the same values, and these are the type of organizations we really want to work with. So in one of the presentation courses that I took over the last years, people said you always have to involve the audience, so here we go. I have a question for all of you guys. If you take a look at all of these, you know, the rainforests, how many species do you think they host? That's animals and plants. Is that worldwide 3, 13, or 30 million? And you can call me, I can be a joker here and make sure that you get the answer right, but I think you will anyway. Yeah. It's 30 million, and I love these selfie pictures that, you know, the chimpanzee, and it's just, it's beautiful, and every time I look at them, I think they're so well deserving of getting better protected. So I want to shift a little bit. I said before, we have examples from the environmental space, we have examples from the health space and education. So just one quick example on health, because I think it also demonstrates the power of technology. We've heard about India before. There are great advances in India, but on the other side, India has well over 1 billion people, and 800 million of them have very little or almost no access to health. I was there the other day and flew to Kolkata and then was really out in the countryside, and it's a miracle that, you know, I feel like I got back in one piece. But that's what people really experience every day. And when they get sick in these rural areas, there's practically no help. And even if, like, imagine, you know, you have a sick child and it has diarrhea, if you pick it up and you cannot work for the day, so you're losing your salary for that day, you walk all day long, you might get to a health facility and there might be even a health worker there, but maybe there's no medication, or maybe there are no instruments in order to really do a physical of the child. So we wanted to bring an integrated health solution to rural areas, but not enough. So in this case, we deployed it in this type of shipping container, and all of the devices that are in the container are directly connected to the cloud. Also, we're directly connected to doctors in the cities. So I saw a few patients, you know, that day, and they arrived and they got treated by a doctor in Calcutta via video conferencing. Health worker was on location in the rural area. The data did get uploaded. So let's say that you have a few patients showing up that show signs of typhoid, you will recognize that instantaneously. And you can do preventive medicine rather than treating after the fact. So it's a cloud-based solution that really showcases, how cloud can make a difference, but at the end of the day, it's really changing people's lives in rural India, and it's a quickly deployable solution, could be deployed anywhere, really, in these containers, in empty buildings, wherever, and it's ready to go practically. You just need to get teamwork together. You need hospitals that come in and share this with you, so that you have doctors that this health system can connect to, and the more partners you get together, you could have companies that do shipping containers, you could have pharmaceutical companies joining, because there's also a little pharmacy with all of these health centers, so that people don't only get a diagnosis, but they get instantaneous treatment. And I want to come to a really, really important topic, which is education. Education is being revolutionized right now, and it's so funny that the president talked about some of these leading universities. I remember 4 years ago, I was in Washington, D.C., I was invited to one of these expert talks, and there were the deans of the leading universities in the US around the table. And I said to them at the time, I said, are you seeing the ongoing revolution around you, and what are you doing about the online revolution that's happening? I was pretty quickly shut up, and I did not say a whole lot more that day, and just decided to listen, because there was no appetite to really take a look at this at all. And I think now the revolution is really coming. It's coming very fast. There are these massive open online courses that give people the ability to really get to any type content that you ever wanted to get to. You just have to show a completely different sense of self-discipline. It even goes further. The University of the People, for example, is a tuition-free university. Volunteers from some of the best universities are the professors at this institution, and it's tuition-free. And it gets you an accredited degree in business administration and information technology. It's just the beginning. Anybody from the Central American countries, from Latin America, can get accepted to this university with the right type of credentials. It's just a different sort of education throughout, a self-discipline, a knowledge that you have to program your own life. You have to take responsibility, and the sources are out there. The work environment around us is changing entirely. A lot of companies now don't even look at degrees anymore. If you have these capabilities, hey, it's your job, and you can prove yourself. Very, very different. In a few years' time, 15, 20 years, you'll have more flexible contracts than what we know now. It's not our parents' job market, it's not our job market anymore, where you joined a company. I've been with HP for 27 years. It's been a great ride, it's been fantastic, but I don't think this happens anymore. It's very different. Companies, rather than building workforces, they crowdsource for intelligence and knowledge and project management. It's starting already, and it's only gonna get bigger. So in this world, I think the most important thing is that we offer courses, training, education that is relevant to people. And we also feel, as an information technology company, we have a big role to play. So we have created, again, a cloud-based program that's called HP Life. It's all about entrepreneurship. It's entrepreneurship for those that don't know how to utilize IT to build a business plan, a marketing plan, how to build their website, how to do your collaterals. What do I need to think about with privacy and security? What do I need to know as a business person, either as a young entrepreneur or a middle-aged entrepreneur or a small, medium business? We've made that program available in Spanish and Portuguese as well, so very relevant for your markets, and it is free. So anybody can get on to HP Live, www.live/global.org, and I can give that to you later, to do these type of courses. But I could stand here for a long time and talk to you about it. I want to give you an example of a young mother who's taken the training and what she has to say about this training.
Cuando decidí a tener mi compañía, a mí muchos me dijeron, vos estás loca, ¿para qué te vas a meter a más problemas? Yo pienso en el futuro. Yo voy a seguir mi sueño. Mi negocio, Clean Work Better Living, Es un negocio de limpieza residencial y comercial. Trabajamos con productos totalmente biodegradables. Es parte de todos los seres humanos ser responsables de cuidar nuestro planeta. Antes de empezar mi compañía, estuve trabajando en restaurantes, trabajando hasta altas horas de la noche. A veces tenía menos tiempo para estar con mi familia y ganaba mucho menos también. Entonces yo decidí que me iba a dedicar a hacer la limpieza residencial, pero no tenía ayuda, no tenía control de mis gastos. Trabajaba demasiado y no estaba cobrando lo que debería. En la organización y la administración era un desastre. Regresaba a mi casa bien cansada. Soy madre, tengo 4 niños. Era muy estresante para mí. Fue duro. El programa de HP Life Learning me ayudó muchísimo a mí a encontrar herramientas que yo realmente necesitaba en mi negocio. Puedo controlar el tiempo de mi trabajo, también formar mis propias hojas de cálculo. Puedo calcular un precio exacto para mis clientes. Ya tengo mi primer empleado y estoy trabajando en el diseño de la website para mi negocio. Me gusta que HP Life Learning existe en español. Me puedo desarrollar estudiando en mi propio idioma. Los ejercicios en cada curso son tan fácil de aprender. Es accesible, creo, para todas las personas, sin importar el nivel educativo que tengamos. Cualquier persona que tenga una idea de negocio lo puede hacer. Sé perseverante, confía en ti mismo. Si más emprendedores se atrevieran a usar HP Life, van a encontrar la llave para tener su estabilidad económica, más tiempo con la familia. Van a estar produciendo empleos. Les va a cambiar la vida.
Thank you. I really love her story, and we have so many more stories out there. My final point that I want to make, and it came up earlier, is about volunteering. One thing I've learned, we have 330,000 employees at HP. And one thing I've learned is once you start getting people engaged, it's rolling by itself. It becomes an avalanche. We have introduced a number of programs a few years back to make sure that people understand, first of all, they can spend 4 hours every month on company time to volunteer, which is very, very important. But also that they can get together and really join forces to really solve certain problems. And once people get started and they see that this is taking them oftentimes even out of their comfort zone, you know, to stand in front of a classroom of kids that might not be the easiest ones to handle, you have to think about how you accomplish this project. We used to send a lot of our employees to all kinds of university courses for learning and development. I think this is as good as any development out there. When you go, first of all, you meet a lot of other people, you have projects to achieve, you have timelines to achieve. It's tough sometimes. You have to overcome a lot of barriers in order to help people, and this could be sharing knowledge. It could also be sometimes going out and help building houses. I had the best part of my trip, and I've been on the road for 2 weeks, yesterday when my 2 colleagues, Jeff and Adriana, introduced me to the social impact team in Panama. The work they're doing is phenomenal. Absolutely, and you should see the people and the passion that they have. If people bring that passion to their everyday work, life is different, work is different, companies will grow and economies will grow because this is the energy that it takes in order to tackle some of these issues. And I know when I talk to some of the employees that they say, you know what, I know I'm busy, I have a lot to do, sometimes I feel I don't know where to start and where to stop. But I would never forgo this opportunity because it gives me the power, the strength, and whatever I need to come back and do my everyday job. And I think that's so, so important. And for us, I'm really pleased to say, it extends even beyond the employees. I was just in Haiti, and Haiti needs a lot of help and support. And together with Dr. Paul Farmer, we helped build a hospital in Mirabelais. It's a phenomenal place. And we did all of the IT, all of the networking, and connecting it to hospitals in the US because it's a teaching hospital. And all of that work was done by HP retirees. They just love staying connected. And now they're down in Rwanda helping us on the next project. Purpose, meaning, and just being able to make a difference. And I think anybody, you don't even need to go so far. You could just take a look in your own neighborhood. There's no excuse not to help, change the trajectory of any child's life in your own area. You don't need to go that far. So at the end of the day, I think, yes, there are a lot of challenges. And I'm not blind, I see them, I travel a lot, and I get to see emerging markets as much as the mature markets. But I also see opportunities like we've never, ever had before. The way we can communicate and the way we can collaborate and how we can really disrupt what we've done in the past. If you open your eyes and you take a look at what the sharing economy is changing around us, a lot of us will be surprised how the industries will look in a few years' time. Millennials and the younger generation have already basically killed off the music industry. They don't drink soft drinks, they don't drive cars, they share cars. I mean, a lot of stuff around us is happening, but a lot of it is also based on sharing. I have different values. I am a baby boomer, but they're not. So they want to have much more balance in life, and therefore they make choices, and they'd rather invest whatever they have in maybe the technology and not drive a car. And maybe in sharing their apartment with somebody and going and taking somebody else's apartment instead. Airbnb, Uber, it's everywhere. So we have a different mindset out there. We have a completely different way to communicate and to collaborate. And I think we need to take advantage of it. And everybody needs to do something a little bit different in order to protect that single one planet that we have, because we only have that one. So with that, I just want to thank you for having me in this wonderful country at this great conference. Thank you very much.